Welcome to my new house.
Okay, so again, welcome to my new house. We're gonna be going through the different workflow steps and processes, a couple different databases and Excel sheets that we have. This is our workflow from top to bottom, or I guess in this case left to right. First three steps are scheduling people, and the entire back end of the preparation for my new house includes things like property listings, scheduling volunteers and clients so that they can meet at the same time. Steps 4 through 8 are like the day of when a client comes in, and we work with them, we fill out applications, we process the applications, we help them in whatever way we can, we have services that we'll go over later. And then steps 9 through 12 are again back end with things like billing and scheduling follow-ups and communicating with the client how their applications have been going, and whether they want to come back for new applications. So we start with step 1, volunteer scheduling, which is coordinate and assign shifts for volunteers based on availability. So we have a volunteer calendar, and they're scheduled according to their availability. We have a bi-weekly shift schedule, which means we try to schedule you 2 weeks out. So for the next 2 weeks, what is your availability? The next 2 weeks, what's your availability? The shifts are, as you see on the screen, 10 a.m. to 2 p.m., 2 to 6 on Tuesday, Thursday, Wednesday 4 to 8, and Thursday 6 to 9. I don't know about other people. I myself am just coming in other times, longer shifts, but other times than this. So I guess it is kind of flexible. We'll see. The next step is calendar management. This is the client side of scheduling. Add and maintain appointment slots in the calendar for clients to book services. So we have a website that we can go to that I'll probably open in a second. And this is the client side of booking appointments. So as I say, when they're available, and we try and coordinate that with volunteer shifts.
It's in the next slide.
Okay, nice. So look at that handsome devil right there. We have on our website, we have select appointments, day and time, and you get to book. The client gets to book themselves. Next, we have property listing entry. So this is the list of properties, and all of the properties elements. I don't want to say properties because that's redundant, but the properties elements and qualities, what type of housing it is, what the maximum income are, and things like that we're going to go into in a second. So you enter and update available low-income housing listings in the database for case management use. So for example, we can start off with what the different types of housing are. We have Section 8 on the far left, then we have low-income housing, affordable housing, and tax credit. So a lot of these different measures, they're the same. For example, all 4 of them place people on waiting lists, but the ones highlighted in red are some of the big differences. For example, what organizations or who subsidizes each of them. So federal voucher program, where the government subsidizes low-income housing, and varies for affordable housing, and tax credit is tax credit. The rent, for example, varies whether it's a fixed income or if it's a percentage of a fixed number, or if it's a percentage of the client's income, being tied to AMI, which we'll get to in a second. AMI stands for Area Median Income, which is a fancy way of just saying the median income of people, of the population in a certain area. So for Los Angeles, there is a dollar number that's the median income, and that number is $106,600. That's just a number that we have that we use for calculations later. And the properties would like clients to make a percentage of that AMI as their income, as a maximum income. We want you to make no more than 50% of your AMI, for example, for you to qualify for Section 8. So we want you to make less than half of what the AMI is. Kind of a couple differences is that whether they accept or don't accept unemployed people. So you see Section 8 does accept, the other 3 don't. And whether they accept or don't accept undocumented people. Section 8 doesn't accept undocumented, the other 3 do. So here we have an AMI chart, which I don't know if you guys can read, it's a little small, but what it has is, if you want to pass them around a little bit, what you have is the columns based on the number of people and the bedroom size. So for example, we can have a 3-person household, which will fit into either a 1-bedroom, 2-bedroom, or 3-bedroom. If you have 3 people, you're not going to give them 4 bedrooms, and because that's too many, and you're not going to put them in a studio because that's too small. So this column is for a 3-person household. On the left, we have the different percentages of AMI and the different categories that we just call them by. If you're below 15% of the AMI, you are acutely low income. And what this means is it defines what the maximum income is that you can have to qualify for this property. Like you're not supposed to make any more than $932.75 per month. And then there's a couple formulas and math that we use. You're not supposed to know it, or you don't have to know it, but we expect you to know how we got this or be able to reference it. That we use to get the minimum income. Like we want them to make at least $250 or something per month, so you can pay something for rent. And then maximum rent and minimum rent are also calculated using these things. So for example, there's a rule of thumb for rent that is if your rent is based on your income, it's going to be about 30% of your income. So that would be a variable rent for a property. So you can see here, max rent, that's 30% of the income, for example. And stuff like that. So we have max income, max rent, min rent, and these all vary based on the number of people in the property and the number of bedrooms in the property. So naturally, if you have more people, then the rent is going to go up. If you have more bedrooms, the rent is going to go up. So these things all vary. And these numbers are not one size fits all for every property. They vary between properties. So a property might say we want 60% AMI. We want people to be below 60% AMI. So you go to this row here, that is 60% AMI, and that tells you, okay, what their max rent income and min income is probably going to be around there. Their max rent is probably going to be that, but it might vary based on property. Some properties might say we want your minimum income to be 3 times your rent or something like that, or we want your rent to be 1/3 of your minimum income. And it might vary, but this is all good guidelines that we have. Let me see if I'm missing anything. No, I think we're good. And this is just another AMI sheet. You see we have the low end, and then the high end is up around 150%, which is called middle income. So that's all. Let me see here. What else am I missing? Oh, and the property sheets. There we go. So this is a list of properties that we have. I can scroll up, scroll down. They have names on the left. And you can see some of the different qualities that they have, what city this is in, what zip code they're in, what the priority is. For example, senior 55 plus, that property prioritizes giving housing to seniors that are 55 and older. The bedrooms could be 1, 2, 3 studio, different number of bedrooms. The percent AMI, which we just went over, and the minimum and maximum income that are defined based on AMI. This one is actually a bit confusing in that minimum maximum occupancy should actually just be one number, should just be occupancy. You have 3 people and a number of bedrooms, and that will define what the numbers are, minimum, maximum income, and rent and stuff. So these 2 columns are going to be merged into one, and we haven't gotten there yet. Again, rent to, rent from is just the numbers up for the rent. If it's 0, it's most likely a placeholder, and we have to go through and pull the numbers out from properties flyers or something. And then first day, last day is the dates that this property is open for application. You can apply to them between, for example, we had a Burbank application that opened up July 7th and it closes on the 21st. So that's the window that you can apply to them to. Then we have the type of property, which is, again, the low income, affordable housing, Section 8, or tax credit in this column. Then we have this column, which is how you apply. The application is either paper, you fill it out by hand. It's maybe online, so you enter in the fields. It may be a portal, as you see for a couple of them. A portal just means you need a login, and I'll get to that later, but we don't do portal applications for our clients because we don't want access to their login information. We have to have them do it themselves. And then there is a link, to go to these various properties and their websites. So we go back to, where was it? Where is the presentation? Where was the presentation? Did it help? Oh, thank you. Okay, that's what it was. Thank you.
And then F5.
Yes. Start at the top again, sit down. Here we are. Okay. So now it's step 4. This is the day of. This is when the client shows up after we've scheduled a volunteer, we've scheduled a client. They're both here. We start with intake, which is a person that initiates contact and with the screening of individuals seeking assistance. So it's handing some intake forms to them and talking to them, which we have a few things. So it provides intake forms for the clients to complete independently. So that means they're sitting outside there near the fire extinguisher and the table, just filling out their forms independently. The intake person would also ask the client if they need transportation assistance, such as a tap card for a bus or a taxi voucher, taxi coupon, and other services that I'll go over in a second that if they need. If yes, provide the corresponding transportation forms. Review all the completed forms, which is like tap card and stuff like that if they did, and then also primarily the intake. Review the intake with the client to ensure accuracy and completeness. Make sure they completed everything, make sure it's as accurate as can be, and then you assign a client to a caseworker for the next step, which we'll get to in a second. So they pass the client off to a caseworker. So before that, we have the services that we offer. The main ones, the first 3 and 4. Affordable housing is the big one we do. We do bus and taxi passes, food home delivery. We give food to people when they come in, and cash aid applications we do sometimes, the big ones. And then the rest of them we also do, but we don't see them that often. This is also a good time to plug our online thrift shop, I think, that we have, where it's a lot of low income and affordable stuff. And then we also give some of those things away to clients if they don't sell in the shop. Okay, next step is admissions. This is actually a back end one that's thrown in the mix, is like when we get some of the documents from the client, we scan them into our system and stuff. So this is verification of eligibility, documentation, and official enrollment into the program. So one of the things they do is scan the client documents like ID, medical cards, and additional paperwork, like pay stubs. They enter the client information into the system, and they mail. One of the other things they do is they mail these completed applications after they've been done, if you haven't gotten there yet. They mail them and scan them, not in that order, the other order. They scan them, then mail them to the properties. So this is admissions. They usually work in this little corner right here behind Francisco. And then step 6, the fun one, the case management. This is the actual caseworker. This is what I do. This is what some of you guys do, which is ongoing assessment, planning, coordination, and support tailored to each client's needs. So there's a lot of things that they do. First thing you're supposed to do, this is because we had a few incidents with people, like clients trying to sleep in the building or something, where we want you to verify who you are when you show up. So upon arrival, check in at the lobby desk with your name and organization, show them your badge. Make sure that they know you're with My New House and that you're a volunteer for My New House, not a client. As a caseworker, the first thing that happens when you show up, the intake administrator will give you the intake forms and the client. The intake forms have a lot of the information that the client gives us. So it may have their residential history, it may have their name, their birthday, phone number, email, medical information. The intake has a lot of these bits of information on it. You engage with the client, engage in conversation with them to try and understand their needs better and gather relevant info. The more they talk about their situation, the more you may be able to find these little details that affect whether they can get housing or not. Like if they start talking about something and then they go into how they have a felony or something like that, then that will affect their application, and we need to make sure we log it. So they may not have put down their intake, but by conversation, that sort of comes out anyways. So after you're done talking, or maybe while you're talking with them, you use the intake data that you have, the intake forms, to search the property database and filter options. So you go through the property database that I showed you earlier that had city, zip code, all those things, and you start filtering out properties that they don't qualify for. Some of the criteria that you can use is income range, the maximum minimum income. You can see whether their income falls in that range or not. The occupancy is the number of people that their family consists of, 3, 4 people, one person. If they're one person, they can go for a studio, for example. Bedroom count, again, studio, 1, 2, 3 bedrooms. Property priority, again, that's for seniors or disabled or artists or something. We've had a few applications that are we prioritize artists. Location would be city and zip code that we try and filter out. Maybe the person wants to stay in LA. Maybe they're okay anywhere in Southern California. Maybe they're okay going to Northern California, whatever they want. And the application deadlines, again, is if the application's open or not, based on the dates, whether it's open, whether it's closed. Next thing we do is assist with cash aid applications if requested by the client. We do that. We go through, so again, you go look through the properties, you find which ones they can qualify for. We ask the intake administrator, the person from the previous step, to print out all of these relevant housing applications. If it's a paper application, we want them to print out the paper ones and just take note of the online ones. Remember, again, we don't do portals. I'll get into that in a second. So what you do now is you have the intake with most of the client's information. You go through the application and see what is there or what is not there, what is missing or what is present. So let's say we have the intake, doesn't have residential history. That means we need to go through the application, find the residential history, and fill it out because we don't have it in the intake. Read each application before filling it out. Cross-check with intake form to ensure all required information is available. So make sure you have all the information that you need in the intake for the application. If anything is missing, ask the client and complete those sections. So again, if you see that there's no residential history in the intake, you do the residential history with them in the application. Next, still in case management, for printed applications, remember, you don't do the entire application, you just do whatever the intake doesn't cover. You have the client sign, date, and initial all the areas throughout the application that are needed. So if they need to sign, a criminal background check or like pay stub check, a check whether you make money or not. Come in. So we're just going through the workflow that at my new house for the entire process from when we get clients to when we work with the clients to post client support and stuff like that. So remember, we don't fill out the entire application. We're going to have someone else do that, but you go through and see if you have everything you need to fill out the application. You hand off the complete intake and the printed applications to application processing, which is the next step. Admissions can then scan completed applications and returned by the caseworker. So we don't do the application yet. Remember, we hand it off to application processing. They will do the application, which I'll get to in a second. They hand it back to the caseworker for approval. Once the caseworker approves it, they hand it back to admissions. You remember the person that scans medical cards and stuff? That's the person that will scan. Do you have a question?
No, I'm just
sure. That's the person that was scanning medical cards. They also scan the completed applications. So we'll come back to that. So these are some important reminders to communicate to the client while you are talking to them. One of them is that we do not offer emergency housing placements. The housing wait time is typically 3 to 6 months. So some people come in here, they want a house now, and we have to communicate to them, we can't do that. We're not magic. So we do not complete online portal applications for the clients. I mentioned earlier that we don't do portals for them because we do not want to have access to their login credentials. And these portal applications require a login and a password. We don't do that for them. We send them email instructions for them to apply independently on their own. Another thing is they ask us if properties will contact us or contact them. And we tell them that the properties will contact you guys, them, because we, in the applications, fill out their information, the client's information, like the client's email address, the client's phone number. We just serve as a middleman and a referral source. So properties will contact the clients directly after we send these applications off. The last thing is we do not issue referral letters. Some of these properties require referrals from us to say, like, hey, this person is good, we want you to house them. We don't do referrals unless the case is extremely sensitive and if the client has no evictions or like criminal convictions, like no felonies, nothing like that. There are cases though that we do referral letters for. If the person is no criminal convictions, no evictions, and if it's case sensitive, we will send a referral letter out. And that's for case management. Then we come to services, which I mentioned earlier that we convey to the client. We do cache, we do stuff like that. And then step 8, application processing. Another way I like to describe this is the scribe, the person that takes the intake with all the information and fills out every application, either manually or online. So complete the printed and online housing applications using the information provided in the intake. For online applications, fill out all the fields, and complete digital signatures on behalf of the client. If you remember, for paper applications, we have the client sign, date, and initial everywhere. For online applications, usually it's like, oh, type in your name, and that counts as a signature. So you can we just do that for them because we can type in their name for them. And then save completed applications as PDFs for record keeping. This is an important step that I will get to in a second. Is before you submit the online application, you have to take it back to the caseworker for approval, just like physical ones. Like for physical applications, you send it up by mailing it. For online applications, you submit it by clicking submit. So don't click submit yet. We have to have the caseworker approve it first. So I'm getting to that in a second. Submit all completed applications printed and online to the caseworker for approval. So paper applications, you give to the caseworker to sign off on it and say, this is done correctly and done well. Online applications, same thing. You hand the laptop basically to the caseworker, say, hey, can you review the online application, see if it's good? If it's good, they click submit and send it out. And then once you have, the paper applications are going to be mailed out by admissions. The PDF copies of the online applications, we're going to upload them to Google Drive for our own documentation purposes. The case manager or social worker, like I just said, review and approve the completed applications and submit all the finalized applications and intake with notes to admissions for scanning and mailing. So the intake, if you remember, we have the stuff from the client. You can also take notes on and say, hey, we applied for these properties for the client. We want you to follow up. So that's one of the intake forms. We want you to follow up with the client later about this property, or if they want new properties, like for the Burbank one I mentioned. The Burbank application is opening in 1 week. Contact client to see if they're willing to apply for Burbank, so you can come back. So you have notes and you put that on the intake forms for follow-ups with the client, and that's how we maintain consistency and a paper trail with the client. Okay, now we go again to backend, starting at step 9, billing and reporting. Bill for services provided to the client. That's, I think, Francisco we have here. Enter data from billable physical applications into PairSuite. PairSuite's a program. It's a database for billing. I don't know too much about it, but that's what it is. And create and label a physical folder to store hard copies of applications. Like, the paper applications we make a copy of when we scan them. The online applications we make a PDF. We also print a copy of that, so we have a hard copy of the PDF, and we store that. And submit billing for follow-up services, just like we submit billing for new services, like when a client comes in for the first time. We also do billing for follow-ups when they come in a second, a third, or fourth time. The billable insurances are the ones you see on the left. It's only 10% of the ones that we see that come in, but it's Health Net, Molina, Blue Cross, Blue Shield, Aetna, and Kaiser. The non-billable insurance is LA Care, which ironically makes up 90% of the people that come in here. But we will be able to bill them soon once we get an NPI number. That's like a medical number that says this is who we are, and we get approved by LA Care. So this will soon be billable, but as of right now, it's not billable. Step 10 is documentation and data entry, where you enter client information into Casebook, which is a program used for case management, and just another database that we have, and maintain accurate records. So we have upload the scanned applications and follow-up records into Casebook, which probably includes intakes. And then Casebook is our centralized client case management database. So like I said, it's another database we use for case management. It ensures secure, organized tracking of services and outcomes. And supports follow-ups, case notes, and reporting. And our 11th step is follow-ups. We conduct follow-ups with clients and property contacts to track progress and ensure continuity of care. So this is when we call the client and say, hey, how's your applications been doing? Have you heard back from them yet? We call properties and say, hey, can you check on this client for us and see if you've done their application yet or not? We just, give that extra little push, a little bit of impetus to both the client and the properties to make sure that these applications can get through. Like I said, contact clients and housing properties to check the status of submitted applications. Follow the clients based on the notes in the intake, like I mentioned, and instructions provided by caseworkers, intake administrators, and refer to intake forms for guidance, like I said. During the follow-up appointments, like this is when they come back in for like a second, a third, or fourth time, you track the status updates, which is the quality of outcomes, and you measure impact metrics, quantity of outcomes. We'll get into this in a second, which is outputs versus outcomes. What are they? So for status updates, you want to see how the application is doing, and then also see whether they got housing or not, which is like binary, whether they got housing or not is a number. And then we come to step 12, outputs and outcomes. This is how we measure our success rate when we refer to the insurance companies and medicals. Properties, you want to say this is how many people we've been able to house, this is how we measure those metrics. So we have outputs and outcomes. What are they? An output is a service or product delivered, such as just saying we submitted 50 applications. That's what we do. The The outcome is the result of the output, which is like we say, well, we housed 10 clients within 60 days. So you can notice that output is always quantitative because it's like 50 applications submitted. Outcomes can be qualitative or quantitative. It can be, we housed 10 clients in 60 days, or we can say, oh, this person's quality of life improved, which is a qualitative measure. So this is like how we measure if what we're doing matters or not, whether we're achieving success or not.